They always told me kindness was a virtue. They told you that too, didn't they? Be the bigger person, turn the other cheek, give them the shirt off your back. Well, they lied. Or at least they didn't tell me the whole, ugly truth. I'm 89 years old. I've buried most of my friends, my beautiful wife Mary, and I am sitting here in a house that is far too quiet, realizing that the lessons we teach our children are often the very things that destroy them as adults. Let me tell you something that is going to sound real wrong, but it is the truest thing you will hear today. When I look back at my life, my biggest regret on this earth isn't the sins I committed. It isn't the rules I broke or the times I fell short of being a saint. My biggest regret, the thing that keeps me awake at 3 a.m. staring at the shadows on the ceiling, is how damn good I was to the wrong folks. Being a good person ruined my life. It bled me dry, drop by drop, until there was nothing left for the people who actually mattered. I am sharing this with you because I see the same exhaustion in the world today that I used to see in my own bathroom mirror 40 years ago. I didn't learn this the easy way. I learned it in the dead of winter, 1982. It was a freezing, miserable Tuesday night in Chicago. The wind was howling off the lake like a wounded animal. I received a phone call at 2:14 in the morning that completely shattered my reality and stripped me of everything I had spent 30 hard years building. My money, my reputation, the very roof over my family's head. It was all gone in the blink of an eye. And the absolute kicker of it all, I didn't lose my livelihood because I was out gambling at the track. I didn't lose it to the bottle or some reckless, greedy investment. I lost it all because I said yes when every fiber of my being was screaming at me to say no. Because I wanted to be the hero. Because I couldn't bear the thought of someone thinking old Arthur was selfish. I'll tell you exactly who was on the other end of that phone call in a few minutes, and what they said to me that brought me to my knees. But I need to confess my mistakes to you first. If you can understand where I went wrong, you might just save yourself 40 years of quiet, agonizing misery. My first catastrophic mistake was believing in the myth of reciprocity. I genuinely thought that if I put good energy out into the world, it would naturally come back to me. Karma, folks call it now. But the brutal reality I had to face was that my endless generosity didn't make people respect me. It didn't make them love me more. It just made them dependent on me. And eventually that dependence curdled into pure, ugly entitlement. I traded my precious, irreplaceable time for fleeting moments of approval from people who didn't even like themselves. I remember the smell of my old accounting office back in the 60s. Stale percolator coffee, cheap cigarette smoke, and the fading cologne of a junior guy named Jimmy. Jimmy was always in a bind. His car broke down, his kid needed braces, his wife was on his case, and I, wanting to be the dependable good guy, always floated him a loan from my own pocket. I stayed late to cover his shifts so he could leave early to deal with his emergencies. I carved out pieces of my own life, hours I could have spent watching my son play ball or sitting on the porch with Mary, and I handed them away to Jimmy. Pieces of my soul I will never, ever get back. When I ended up in the hospital with a bleeding ulcer from working 80-hour weeks trying to keep everyone else's world from falling apart, Jimmy didn't visit. He didn't even send a cheap grocery store card. He just called my secretary to ask when I'd be back to finish his quarterly tax reports. I threw away my health for someone who wouldn't cross a puddle to pull me out of a fire. Listen closely to me. This matters more than you know. I've watched 3 generations come into this world and leave it. Time is the only currency you can't earn back once it's spent. Handing your remaining hours to people who just see you as a convenience is a tragedy that you don't recognize until it's too late to fix. Stick around, because what I'm about to tell you about the poison of unspoken resentment is the part that cost me my soul. My second mistake was confusing self-destruction with selflessness. I was a master at setting myself on fire, just to keep other people warm. I was absolutely terrified of someone being disappointed in me. I missed my daughter Sarah's 10th birthday party. Not because I was out drinking, not because I didn't love her more than life itself, but because my boss at the firm had a sudden crisis and needed someone to stay late and reorganize the entire filing room for a surprise audit. It wasn't my job. It wasn't my responsibility. But I was the reliable guy, the one who never pushed back, the one who always swallowed his own plans for the sake of the team. I can still see the look on Mary's face when I walked through our front door at 11:30 at night, smelling like dusty paper and pure exhaustion. The house was quiet. The streamers were sagging. The cake was put away in the fridge, half-eaten. She didn't yell. She didn't throw plates. She just looked right through me with this quiet, profound, devastating disappointment. I traded the respect of my wife and the joy of my daughter for a pat on the head from a corporate boss. A boss who, by the way, replaced me with a kid half my age 3 days after I officially retired. I made myself a supporting character in my own life. I was the guy they called when they needed something lifted or fixed, and I was the guy they forgot when it was time to celebrate. And here is the bitter pill. Here is what constantly playing the good guy actually did to my mind. It turned me into a liar. When I let people walk all over me in the name of being polite, that anger didn't just magically evaporate. It didn't go away just because I smiled. It got buried alive inside me. It festered. It turned into a dark, ugly sludge in the pit of my stomach. I spent decades swallowing my pride, biting my tongue, and nodding when I desperately wanted to scream. I didn't achieve enlightenment or peace. I became a bitter, cynical old man. I started secretly resenting the very people I was bending over backward to help. I walked around feeling like a victim of the world. But I wasn't a victim. I was a volunteer. I volunteered for the disrespect because I was too much of a coward to draw a line in the sand. I carried that toxic, unexpressed resentment home with me every single night. I snapped at Mary over burnt toast. I was impatient and short-tempered with my kids because I had given all my patience and all my goodness to strangers who didn't care if I lived or died.
The good person to the outside world was a miserable, irritable son of a gun behind closed doors. My inability to say no didn't make me noble. It made me a pressure cooker. And when I finally exploded, I burned the innocent people closest to me. The ones who actually loved me for who I was, not for what I could do for them.
Which brings me right back to 1982. In that freezing Tuesday night, I picked up the heavy receiver in the dark, half asleep, expecting it to be a wrong number or a prank. It was the state police. The officer's voice was completely flat, just doing his job while my entire universe collapsed. My business partner, my absolute best friend of 25 years, a guy named Thomas, had been pulled over at the Canadian border. His trunk was packed full of cash. Our company's cash. My entire life savings, our payroll, our tax reserves, everything. Thomas had been skimming from our shared accounts for over 5 years. 5 solid years of looking me in the eye every morning and stealing the future of my children. And the brutal, unforgivable truth is, the signs were all there the whole time. The missing ledgers, the strange excuses, the unreturned calls from vendors, the nervous sweat on his brow whenever I walked into his office. But I never audited him. I never once questioned him. Whenever my gut screamed at me that something was deeply wrong, I shoved it down. I literally told myself, "Arthur, you're a good person. Good people trust their best friends. Don't be paranoid. Don't cause a scene and make things awkward." My overwhelming desire to avoid a difficult confrontation, my desperate, pathetic need to be the accommodating, trusting good guy, cost me my business, my family home, and nearly my marriage. I had to start over at 55 years old, sweeping floors at a local hardware store just to keep the heat on, while Thomas went to federal prison and my family ate beans out of a tin can for a year. That was the night the good guy died. That was the night I realized that true goodness isn't about being soft, yielding, and agreeable. My kindness was nothing but a weakness, waiting to be exploited by a world full of wolves. I'm not sharing my failures with you to make you depressed. I'm not here to tell you to be a villain. I'm sharing this because time is the one thing you can never, ever buy back. I threw away decades trying to be the person everyone liked, instead of a person I could respect when I looked in the mirror. I spent 80 years learning that no is a complete sentence, and that your boundaries are the only thing protecting your soul from being devoured. I don't care about a thumbs up on this video. I don't care about the numbers or the fame. But if anything I've confessed today hit you in the chest, if you know deep down in your bones that you've been giving your life away to people who don't deserve a single second of it, I want you to go down to the comments right now. I don't want a long story. I just want you to write one single word. Enough. Write it like a blood promise to yourself. Let's see how many of us are finally ready to stop being the good person and start being real. Life is too short to be a doormat for people who won't even wipe their feet. Take care of yourself, kid. Do it while you still have time left to enjoy the life you've reclaimed.